Satchidanandarupaya Vishwotpattyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayah Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sadani Rastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudhyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubhi Tatshana. Hari Om, and greetings from Kansas City. One of the greatest bhaktas, one of the greatest personalities that loves God is Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna loves Bhagavan Krishna so much, and so is a futile word to describe him and his efforts. So much that he engaged in the upasana of Bhagavati Radha. Upasana is a technique where you become whom you're focusing on, worshiping. He became Bhagavati Radha. He dressed like her, he looked like her, he smelt like her. And this is incredible. He never had an organization revolving around him. He was not a teacher. He was a bhakta who did anything and everything to love Bhagavan. And I share that with all of us because that's the standard that we are training ourselves into. To not be held back by the person next to you or in front of you. Your only relationship is with Bhagavan. And Vedanta and Bhagavata, what we're experiencing, is like a private meeting with Bhagavan. There's a really awesome singer. Her name is Tina Turner, and she sings a song called Private Dancer. And it's a fairly crude song, but if you can imagine that Bhagavan Krishna is your private dancer. That's a very intimate experience. The portion of Bhagavatam that we're exploring and will soon complete is where Rishi Dattatreya is sharing if someone is self-reflective, the most important quality for a seeker, which is to be reflective. If one is, they will learn from every experience. They will never be bored. How do you know if you're becoming self-reflective? Where you're less bored. He shares his 17th teacher is the courtesan. Her name is Pingala. And for those who don't know about her, she was a prostitute. And Rishi Dattatreya learned about happiness from a prostitute. And our practice is associate. What we can learn from this courtesan is to associate. If you associate with people who are addicted and attached, you will be the same way. But if you associate with people who are independent, you will be the same way too. One more insight about Pingala. She realized that her customers, her clientele, the people who wanted to pay for her body, are like the wind. They just come and go. Now that's quite intense, but if we expand our mindset to all of our relationships come and go, correct? And that's why I was sharing with the seeker yesterday that the finality of your journey is for you to depend on yourself. When you depend on yourself, that is infinity. The 18th teacher, the osprey. That osprey that's flying away with that small piece of meat. And our practice from this, simplify. Flashy people are not interested in those who are simple. Flashy people are interested in those who are flashy, and you can never rest with such a game. Do you agree? If it's a matter of being good looking, today I'm better looking, the next day the next person is, so I have to compete with him, there's no rest. But if you choose not to play that game, then there's a lot of rest. Simplify. Now, some commentators, share, after the osprey, the next teacher is a child. I think in Puja Guruji's book, that's listed there too. But in Swami Tapasya Nanda's book, which I'm using, and you are too, the child is not the next teacher, but there is a highlight about the greatness of a child. So I'm stating that to you without officially sharing a child as a teacher. What Rishi Dattatreya observed about a child is that a child feels all is a game. When a child feels all is a game, they're not concerned about winning or losing. Very different than the World Cup, correct? Now, here's an implication of this. If you're concerned about winning, you become future-oriented. If you're concerned about losing, you become past-oriented. For those who drift into the future, what comes with that? Anxiety. For our high school students who are applying for college, what comes with that? Anxiety, correct? And if you drift into the past, what comes with that? Regret. Why didn't I do this? Why did I say this? So with the child, if they're not concerned with winning or losing, that means they're not concerned with the future or the past. They live in the present, where they're much more free. And one more insight that is shared. Rishi Dattatreya shares there's only two types of people who have no worries. Only two types. Those who are completely enlightened, their past thoughts, and those who are completely ignorant. They don't know they should have worries. So please be the former, not the latter, okay? The courtesan, the osprey, and then our 19th teacher, which we completed last week, the teenager. Yes, you can learn from a teenager also. And what one learns from the teenager is to seclude. To seclude. In my travels, I've been here for 5 years. In my travels, what I'm coming to notice that is more rampant than ever is the sense of insecurity amongst all demographics. It doesn't matter what state I go to, what age group I interact with. And as I reflect on insecurity, I think one of the starting points for insecurity is the sense of feeling isolated. But here, Feeling isolated and feeling secluded are totally different. In feeling secluded, you feel full. In feeling isolated, you feel empty. Many times I've shared with all of you that I was once in a room by myself, locked from the outside for 168 hours. I went in on Sunday night. Monday was extremely difficult because it was so hot. It was in Surat in May. Tuesday was difficult also because my mind was detoxifying. You don't see anyone, you don't talk to anyone. On Wednesday, I had this revelation that if they never open this door, I'll be fine. I have food, I have water, I have shelter. Everything else I need is not outside, it's inside. When they opened that door on Sunday night, I was scared. I didn't want to leave. For everyone here, here's a practical way to engage in seclude. Every day, practice 1 hour of mauna. Every day for 1 hour, close your mouth to open your mind. And when I say mauna, that means it's not that you're on your phone or watching a video or sleeping. I do 8 hours of mauna. It means you're with yourself, getting to know yourself for a full hour a day. Every week, practice half a day of mauna. Now, for most in the Central Time Zone, Eastern Time Zone, usually we finish our Sunday classes and you get home by, let's say, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. For those families who have older children like here, everyone should just be in their rooms when they go home. The whole family should practice mauna. Instead of dinner, eat an apple, an orange, a banana. That's a really great practice to help, especially those who are young, to learn not to feel isolated. Every month, practice 1 day of mauna. A day a month, the entire day, you engage in mauna. So you have to tend to your responsibilities before that. And finally, every year, engage in a weekend of mauna. And that's what we've been trying to do with our silence retreats, correct? Our next silence retreat is January 13th to the 15th. So if you're taking this seriously, here is your opportunity. Those are 3 teachers from last week. We're going to explore 4 more teachers today. And then in our final class of 2022, we'll learn from our final teacher. The 20th teacher is a Aerosmith. Aerosmith. Aerosmith is a band, right? I'm saying A-R-R-O-W, Smith, the one who makes arrows, okay? They also copied their name from Bhagavata. Is there anyone here who's never heard of the band Aerosmith before? You've never heard of the band? Here? Is there anyone here who's never heard of Aerosmith? Interesting. Okay. I've seen them live in Toronto. They're quite good. Now they're quite old, but they're quite good. In Sanskrit, the name is Ishukara. Ishukara. Kara means maker. Ishu means arrow. Remember the arrowhead? You were all Ishukaras. You did this on Friday. I'm in the 11th section, the 9th chapter, the 11th verse. 11, 9, 11. Mana ekatra sanyujyat jita shvaso jitatmanaha vairagyabhyasa yogena griyamanam matandritaha. What Rishi Dattatreya shares here is mana ekatra sanyujyat, which means our minds have to be trained to focus. The mind has to be trained to be focused. Where do you start? Jita Shvasa, which means let your breath be natural. Not light breathing, not deep breathing, not controlled breathing, just natural breathing. For us, the best pranayama is to exercise. Anyone who exercises regularly, you will have a more natural breathing process. Then, Jita Asana, which means to have a relaxed body. A relaxed body. In our culture, you know you have asana siddhi, which means you're powerful with sitting, if you can sit without moving for 45 minutes. Should we try? To sit without moving for 45 minutes. See how much training that requires? It requires such conscious living to not fidget, essentially. So if Vivek wants to learn how to focus, I have to have natural breathing, a relaxed body. Then Vairagya, Abhyasa, Yoga. Where have we heard this before? Gita, what chapter? Yes, very good. In Bhagavad Gita's chapter 6, Sri Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, when you practice, you need to engage in Vairagya, which means letting go of that which is harming you. And practicing, even if this is difficult. So letting go if this is harming you, our minds are most distracted at, what time does it start? What time do our minds become most distracted? 9 p.m., yes? You're all thinking when you start, Vivekji. At 9 p.m., our minds become distracted. So Vairagya is go to sleep early. And Abhyasa means you do this every day. If you exercise once a week, you are not going to be healthy. If you read Bhagavad Gita once a week, you will not understand Bhagavad Gita. Griyamanam, the mind is to be channelized. The mind is to be directed, atandritaha, with great care, being careful to not let the mind be distracted. The genesis of this verse, once this Ishukara, this blacksmith, arrowsmith, was making arrows in his shop. And who came outside? The king had come. And when a king comes, the whole retinue comes too. The paparazzi were there too. So imagine all of the lights and all of the sounds, but that arrowsmith didn't even know that the king and retinue were outside of his shop. He was that focused on making those arrows. How many of you, this describes you? Here's the implications for us. Our whole life is a training for contemplation. I've repeatedly shared, if you don't know how to contemplate, you cannot be content. I'm saying it once again. When I chant the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, every week I chanted it, you heard me chanting this long Sanskrit verse, I always slow down at the end to bring great emphasis to Satyam, Param, Dhimahi. Dhimahi means I contemplate on. Param Satya, the highest truth. So now the precursor that's being shared here is, if we want to contemplate, we have to have a focused mind. anything that is distracting you, stop entertaining that. It is a dangerous way to live. We are casual with, hey, I'm driving, I'll listen to the news, or I have this work meeting, I can talk to someone while doing it, while I'm eating my lunch. And we feel that we're more efficient doing so. We may be more efficient with IQ. Remember, I was hammering out the difference between IQ and SQ. So our IQ may be growing, but we're losing track of the spiritual quotient. If I can't focus, I can't contemplate. If I can't contemplate, I can't be content. That's the implication here. And one more subtle point here. Who is this arrowsmith making arrows for? Who is he making it for? For that king, correct? This shows how he's offering the greatest service, that more important than the king liking him is him doing his work for the king. Once, Swamini Vimalananda had told me, when she was just starting to teach, that she had gone into a room where Puja Swami Chinmaya was sitting, and lots of people were around him. Some were offering him tea, some were massaging his feet, and she really wanted to be closer to him. She had just come back from engaging in her seva, and she wanted to be closer to him. And she was thinking this, she was feeling it. She never said anything. And as this is going on, then Puja Swami Chinmayananda stops and says out loud, and my greatest sevakas are those who are out working in the field. And she felt so empowered by that some people are offering tea, some people are massaging his feet, but really, who is offering him the greatest service? Those who are not there. Those who are doing his work, helping him with his work. Lovely, no? Here is our practice, okay? It's coming in from a very high level. How do we practice this at the end of 2022? Tell me in the chat, what do you think I'm going to share is our practice? And this is like one of my favorite words. What do you all think the practice is going to be? Starts with a U. Unitask. That's right. Unitask. What we can practice to be like the arrowsmith is to unitask. When you walk, walk. When you eat, eat. When you teach, teach. When you listen, listen. Then the mind becomes focused. What's next? We learn to contemplate. What's next? We are content. The 21st teacher is a snake. In Sanskrit, sarpa. Now, before I describe, all of you who are here and those online, tell me, what can we learn from a snake? What did Rishi Dattatreya learn from observing snakes in the jungle? Shout it out, and you can tell me in the chat too. Focus, yes. Shedding, yes. Anyone else? Think, use your intellect. Okay, using multiple senses to learn, yes. Detachment, to be alone, all very good, all very, very good. Here's what Rishi Dattatreya shares. All of you are correct, but this is what Rishi Dattatreya shares. That a snake never builds its own home, correct? A snake never builds its own home. It always finds a home that is not being used and starts to live in that home or hole. Yes? Sometimes it eats what's in that hole and starts to live there. But that doesn't apply to us, okay? The point is that it doesn't build its own home. It finds a place and makes that its home. Now, the reasoning for that, because for all of us, we all live in a home. Where's the logic in all of this? The logic is also provided that a home, the security or the certainty of that home is unclear, is unsure. So why should one invest in that which is unsure, that which is unclear? So the greater implication, everyone, is instead of investing outside, invest inside. Instead of investing in that which is shaky, depend on yourself. Okay? That's what comes from learning from the snake. And there's many other beautiful points that are shared in Bhagavatam. I am deeply petrified by snakes. And only after my study this morning, I realized how foolish I am, that snakes are awesome. I remember being at our ashram at Sandipani. So we had snakes there. We had cobras at the ashram. And one day, a student and I, both of us, we were just using the restroom and then coming back to the discourse hall. And out of that bathroom came a snake. And we had just left that too. So we're both there. I'm behind him, holding him in front of me. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm protecting myself." So other strong points about snakes are they are comfortable, comfortable being alone. I've highlighted that a lot today. They're comfortable being alone. They are vigilant. If you ever watch a movie about snakes or shows about snakes, they move very carefully, correct? Smelling and hearing and sensing the vibrations. So they're alone, they're vigilant, and they're quiet. Other than rattlesnakes, but they only make noise when we're there, correct? You really can't hear a snake. Often you see them and don't even know that they're there. What we can practice from this teacher, our 21st sadhana, our 21st verb is utilize. Utilize. Whatever assets, whatever possessions you have, use them fully. Like a snake does, correct? It doesn't allow that hole to be wasted. It goes and uses that. Another practice I was thinking about was to reuse. Reuse. A snake is very environmental. So for us to buy used clothing, buy used dishes, and so on and so forth. Instead of investing in that which is harming the earth, it's already been taken from the earth, utilize it fully. So more doesn't need to be taken from the earth. Make sense? Number 22, the spider in Sanskrit, Urna Nabhi. Urna Nabhi. Urna Nabhi means that from which thread comes from their navel. Urna Nabhi technically means that from which thread comes from their navel. Okay. There's a lot that's shared about the spider. It is very technical and beautiful. So I'm asking everyone now to close their eyes. All of you close your eyes. I'm going to read to you the insights about the spider in English. It very much has to do with creation and time and Bhagavan. Try to visualize this, okay? Your bodies are relaxed. Your breath is natural. Now visualize. At the end of the creative cycle, Narayana, the sole reality, destroys by means of his power of time the whole universe, which his own Maya has created. When time, his power, has thus brought sattva, rajas, and tamas, the three aspects of Prakriti, into equilibrium, he exists as the sole reality, being himself his own support, the residual base of all, and the master of both matter and spirit. Transcending all relative existence, high and low, he exists as boundless freedom and the ocean of pure consciousness bliss. When the creative cycle begins, time, which is but his will, agitates his own Maya, constituted of sattva, rajas, and tamas, and manifests the Sutratma, the pervading spirit known otherwise as Mahatattva. He, the Sutratma, formed of the three gunas, is looked upon by great men as the creator of this multifarious universe. This whole universe is threaded on him, and the jiva transmigrates because of him. Just as a spider brings out of its web from within itself through the mouth, sports in it for some time, and then withdraws it into itself, so does the Supreme Being create, spread, and withdraw the universe all by himself. Stretch, inhale, smile. What is the implication of all of this technicality? Where is Bhagavan? Where is Bhagavan not? Bhagavan is the manifest. Bhagavan is the transition from manifest to unmanifest. Bhagavan is the unmanifest. Bhagavan manifests again. Bhagavan is the creation, the creator, consciousness, the Sutratma, the thread that unites all of us. What an awesome lesson to be learned from a spider. The last time you saw a spider, did you think about this? Here is our practice. Our practice is release. Release. Let go of those ways that you live that make you feel separate from another. Whatever is making you feel more separate from the person in front of you, from the people in your class, at work, in society, release that. If we go back to the child, this notion of winning or losing, if someone is so adamant about winning, let them win then. Release that notion that you have to beat them. Let them win. Release. And the last, I'll be brief today, I'll elaborate more tomorrow. The 11th section, the 9th chapter, the 22nd verse, this is on the insect. So today we learned from a snake, a spider, and now an insect. In Sanskrit, this is called a kita. Kita. Yatra yatra mano dehi dharayet sakalam dhiya snehad dveshad bhayad vapi yati tattva swarupatam. The saying that we often come across, as you think, so you develop. And then I challenged all of you, how do you know, or what affects your thinking? As you associate, so you think, so you develop. That comes out here. Yatra yatra mano dehi means in whatever way a human thinks, in whatever way the mind goes, dharayi, with concentration, sakala, in a comprehensive way, dhiya is directed. If a human thinks intensely about, and how do they think about it? Snehat, out of love. Dveshat, out of hate. Bhayat, out of fear. That's how we think intensely, correct? When you're afraid, that's what you think about the most. If there's someone here that you don't like, you keep looking at them the most. And it should be snehat, out of love. Yati, tat swarupatam, the way one thinks, one becomes that. That becomes their swarupa. Now, the reasoning for this. A wasp, this is what Rishi Dattatreya saw in the jungle, that a wasp had captured an insect and put it into a hole within this wasp's nest. They caught this insect and put it into this hole that it couldn't get out of, but through this hole, it could keep seeing the wasp. It could keep hearing the wasp, the buzzing, the buzzing, the buzzing. And eventually, this same insect started to feel that it was a wasp. It didn't start to develop a body like a wasp. Sometimes when we teach this to kids, we think that, but a worm is not going to become a wasp, okay? That's not going to happen. But this insect starts to behave like a wasp. And so that's the point that's shared here. This insect associated with the wasp started thinking like a wasp, started to develop as a wasp. For us, our practices model. Our 23rd practices model. Model those whom you want to be like. Here in Kansas City, I use the phrase revolve around inspiring people, then revolve around inspiring people's ideas, and then finally was revolve around inspiring ideas. Okay? Model. With that, we have now completed 23 of the 24 teachers of Rishi Dattatreya, our own teachers. One more. Oh.